Let's take us through the trade for Brazil. What exactly is happening in your mind, and can it be investable?
I think the coffee trade is more emblematic of an attempt to use tariffs as a one-size-fits-all foreign policy tool. And I think that's probably ultimately not successful. I think the Brazilian coffee trade is an important trade. We import almost 31% of our coffee in the United States from Brazil. It's a big deal. What's interesting is that the Brazilian real and Brazilian markets haven't necessarily plummeted on the headlines in the more adversarial relationship between the U.S. and Brazil, which historically, Brazil's been a very solid trading partner. And I think there's been much alignment in the past, especially even with geopolitics and foreign policy goals. The BRICS pushed back against Trump and the gathering in Rio about a month ago, and the dynamics that exist where Trump has aggressively, at least in the most recent round of tariff dynamics, whether it's Brazil, whether it's India. We know the story with China and with Russia. You know, clearly both the present focus on whether it's India or others buying Russian oil. There's really the BRICS are right in the spotlight here. But ultimately, Brazil and other parts of the emerging markets trade have actually had a bit of a renaissance over the last 6 months. And I'm not sure that the headlines here are going to derail that.
How much of that is weaker dollars, stronger relative currencies in those emerging markets? And does that trade only hold if those emerging market currencies still have relative outperformance to the U.S. dollar?
Well, you're right. If you're investing in emerging, globally for that matter, but definitely in emerging, getting your currency right is probably 50% of that trade. The real's actually at I don't know, six-week highs against the dollar. The real's actually rallied in the last few weeks. I do think that dollar weakness ultimately for the Trump administration, they're not talking about it outright, although they've certainly indicated that a weaker dollar ultimately is probably where the U.S. should be. I do think getting EM currencies right is been a big part of the last, say, 9 months of an outperformance of emerging. And I do believe there's been a fiscal adjustment in Brazil, for example, that's very bullish. Ultimately, if you're investing in Brazil, you're investing in the kind of the barbell of commodities and the middle class. And I think in terms of, first of all, Petrobras and Vale and some of the big, call it traditional commodity plays in Brazil have actually done quite well. And I do think have gotten their house in order over the last 5 years in terms of debt profile. So I like investing in Brazil. I like investing in Latin America. And if you look really since Trump took office, emerging markets have more or less rallied, despite the fact that there's been an America First policy. I think a lot of that will continue. I think the fundamentals are quite solid.